This image tricked hundreds of people into believing in fairies. It's one of the oldest photography hoaxes, and I'm going to show you how to recreate it. Let's get weird. In the age of fake news and AI, there's something almost wholesome about an old-fashioned hoax. If you've ever wanted to recreate a famous hoax, today's your lucky day. Move over, Nessie. I'm Riley Arthur, and we're diving into the world of childhood imagination with the Cottingley Fairies. In 1917, in Cottingley, England, 9-year-old Frances Griffith and her 16-year-old cousin Elsie Wright took the world by storm with their photos. Frances and Elsie spent a lot of time in Cottingley Beck, and they would play in the stream and come home dirty, and when they did, their parents would ask what happened, and they said they went to see the fairies. One day, Elsie brought her father's camera along, and iconic images emerged. Elsie's mom was impressed by the images, so she took them to a Theosophical Society meeting. Say that 3 times fast. Theosophical. Intrigued, members embraced the images as supernatural proof of fairies and widely published them. People like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle believed in these images. He even published a book about the girls and their fairies. It's still in print. What made the images seem so realistic and trick people for decades was 3 things. A small breeze which made the wings of the fairies appear to be moving, enhanced by a slow shutter speed which made for a long exposure, which in turn made the wings appear to be moving. And the fact that viewers at the time, they just didn't have a discernible eye. They weren't a lot of photography hoaxes. They didn't know to look for them, and frankly, they didn't think little girls could pull such a thing off. Kodak inspected the images, and they were inconclusive in their findings. They weren't willing to issue a letter of authenticity. I guess they weren't willing to publicly confirm the existence of fairies. Who can blame them? The debate lingered into the 1960s. In the 1980s, the hoax was debunked, when in 1983, Elsie finally confessed to the deception, although Frances, to her death, maintained that one of the images was real. This one. Turns out the girls had used hat pins and string to float paper fairies that they had cut out from children's books. They used a very popular children's book. Why no one recognized the illustrations is a mystery lost in time. 2 films from 1997 were inspired by these true events. Find them wherever you stream. Now that you know the history of the hoax, I'll show you how to recreate it. I'll be using sewing pins to secure the fairies to the scene. Frances and Elsie used a Midge quarter plate handheld, without any external lights or an elaborate setup. The Midge was a consumer-grade camera, so using a smartphone or a mirrorless is really a comparable modern equivalent. Just like the girls, I will also be using minimal kit. I'm going to demo 2 different setups here. For the first scene, I will be using the Platypod grip on my Peak Design travel tripod. And for the second scene, I wanted to be lower to the ground, so I used the Platypod Influencer SmartStart kit. I shot in color and edited in post, though you're welcome to shoot on your favorite black and white app if using a smartphone. Working with children and fairies does take patience, but it's a lot of fun. Be prepared to answer a lot of questions about fairies that you may not know the answers to, so you may have to tell a few white lies.
Is that a picture of a real fairy?
Yeah.
Fairies are real.
Oh my gosh. Fairies are real.
Are there any fairies now?
I don't have any fairies here, but you never know.
Are they real still? Are they still real?
Here, I'll show you this stuff back
Yeah,
here.
but I don't know if they're extinct. They might be extinct, you know? Like
Fairies
dinosaurs?
been extinct?
I don't know. Ask your mom.
I didn't have access to a beck, which is what the British call a stream, so I used my backyard in Southern California, which I'm pretty sure is exactly like the British countryside. The resulting images were inspired by the originals, but not exact copies, and I find them more interesting and nuanced than if I had tried to nail every gesture exactly. And when working with small children, it would have been too tiring for them. This shoot is incredibly easy to execute. One might say a child could do it. Here are the originals, and here are my versions. As we wrap up, I hope that these tips and tricks have inspired you to capture your own images. If you recreate this hoax, take a photo of your setup and share your images on Instagram. If using Platypod gear, at least tag us. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, and feel free to leave comments or questions or talk fairies in the comments below. To see more of my work, find me on Instagram. Until next time, keep shooting, stay creative, and I will catch you in the next frame.
Mom, do fairies